Nomadic pastoralism is one of the most common economic activities in West Pokot County, Kenya. It is therefore no surprise that cattle rustlers have found a haven for raids on cattle and their bearers, robbing and killing the people, disrupting their livelihoods, and leaving them with great losses that cannot be recovered.
My father was a cattle rearer. He was murdered during a cattle raid in my hometown of North Pokot, sub-county Alew Town, Kenya, when I was a child. My name is Alew Keem. I am a peace facilitator, a community development facilitator, a gender and social development professional, and a community worker connecting community-based organizations to resources that assist them in doing their work effectively. I work in West Pokot sub-county. My father was killed while he was taking care of his cattle by cattle raiders in our hometown of Nasal village so many years ago, and so we were extremely traumatized and impoverished. No provision for food, no provision for security, no protection, and so we lived extremely isolated life. The memories of my father's murder live with me, and it inspires me to work harder so that I can prevent other families from going through the same experience. Growing up as a child who lost his father at a very tender age was extremely traumatizing. It was a very lonely experience. I and my brother and my sister were left at a very young age, although the community systems helped us a lot, because you will not get to know whether you are an orphan or not until you grow up, because there's a system where when somebody passes on or dies, there is always brothers who come in to take over the family. Going to school for me was an accident. It was not because education was a right to us, the pastoralist kids, but because we were extremely extinguished by raids, and the few people who remained and the few cattle also were consumed by cholera outbreak in 1980s. So we had to go to towns to find food to eat, and that's how we went to school. Growing up, I had a dream to be a teacher, but because of the rampant raids and the fact that so many children still were in the villages not going to school, I had to redefine my dream to be a peace building worker, a social worker, so that I can help the young people who are still in the villages to come to school and build their careers through education. So that's how I went to school and studied sociology, and also did a lot of work with the NGOs in peace building across the borders of Uganda and Kenya, and also Turkana. So it was through this education that helped me to transform my career into what I am today. Cattle rustling is as old as it started long before we were even born or our grandfathers were born, but it started as a wrestling match between these communities, and it started as a struggle over pasture and water, but it has evolved from then to complex cattle raids, which is highly militated by the use of guns now. It has also evolved from being struggle over these mega resources to struggle over cows, to struggle over replenishing stocks. And so the youth fall prey because the cultural aspect requires that this youth get cows to marry. And so if you don't have cows, you really have to tighten your belts and go and raid, get cows and marry. These people do not understand the ripple effect of their actions on society. Families are affected directly by their actions. People are forced into hardships, and then their children may end up being criminals too if they have no way out. This is a societal hill which must be curbed.
When people go about taking selfish actions and forgetting the consequences, society suffers those consequences. Why don't we let society enjoy the consequences of our kindness instead?
Living in the borderland of between Uganda and Kenya, this has helped me to get experiences across the borders. It has helped me to work with so many organizations in Kenya and Uganda. Like I worked with the World Vision Pakatusa program. I worked with Uganda Joint Christian Council as a peace facilitator to help these communities stay in peace, because to the communities, these borders are imaginary. They normally, when it rains like this, they migrate back to their farmlands. But when it's dry, they have to migrate to Uganda. So they transit boundaries every now and then. But the biggest challenge still remains how to change this lifestyles and introduce these people to new livelihoods. The biggest one would be to ensure that they have a lot of markets along the border so that they can trade. The women can be able to grow vegetables. They can be able to have poultry keeping projects. They can be able to venture into even trade, like selling clothes, selling these household merchandise, and so on. Instead of purely depending on the cattle, they can venture into other alternative sources of funds to help their families cope. And so I think the government and the government partners have a duty to ensure that these people are enabled, capacity built, to know that there exist a lot of other sources of livelihoods, like even venturing into businesses like building, constructing houses for rentals, like putting up houses in towns and so on, and like farming, and farming in things like even fodder for their cows, even maize, sorghum and so on, so that they can help improve their lives.
Insecurity, climate change, and its resulting impact on health and safety have caused many to migrate from the places they call home to seek greener pastures across the border.
The reality is that there is no place like home. Even out there, it is not entirely safe. In Uganda, there was insecurity from Karamajongs, and when the NRM government took over, my parents traveled back to Kenya. In Kenya, I could not go back to school. I stayed at home for 4 years before I could go back to continue and graduate. A permanent sustainable solution is what we need to stop this cycle, because it is still happening today, although not as much as before. A peace facilitator is somebody who helps communities to come together through meetings, through peace campaigns, through forums, through bringing together even university students from the various conflicting communities to come together and talk about peace, holding rallies in the grassroots. That is what peace facilitation entails. So it's actually trying to help communities cope with or mitigate against issues like climate change and extreme poverty. This is personal for me, very personal, because I lost my father at a very young age due to this same issue in West Pokot. I could not sit back and do nothing while other families suffered a similar fate. So it was important for me to lend my support to the community to ensure that other families did not suffer the way my family suffered. The journey so far has been that of coming from nowhere to greatness and hope for a brighter future. Challenges are born, but people have adapted and managed their adversities well. Even though we have seen remarkable progress and improvement, there is still a lot left to be done in the community. It has been challenging, but worthy. There are a lot of successes that we have experienced. There are a lot of challenges that we still have to mitigate, and especially now that there is the big animal of climate change. Keeping so many animals also affects even the environment that people live in, and so that still remains a big challenge to mitigate. And so I can say proudly it has been a worthy journey. My work here is never done. It is a continuous process that must never stop if we want to achieve sustainable change. Thankfully, I am not doing this alone. There are a good number of people and organizations actively involved in community development, child protection, and sponsorship programs relating to vulnerabilities and family matters. We all support each other, and that is the beautiful thing about this place. The people truly care, and they show it in their actions, not just words. My childhood experience inspires me to do the work that I do. I dream of a peaceful West Pokot County for future generations. I know it is possible to achieve this. That is why I am actively working to see that it becomes our reality. I want little boys to be able to carry lunch to their fathers out in the fields and sit down with them to eat. I want them to know that they will meet their fathers out in the fields when their mothers send them with a basket of lunch. I want mothers and children to never feel unsafe or worry that their husband and father may not return home. I believe that if we open our hearts and join our hands, we can achieve this together.
Our experiences are a big part of what shapes us into who we eventually become. Whether amazing or traumatic, it is important that we take those experiences and wield them into tools that impact lives positively. Improving society is a joint responsibility. Every ocean is made of little drops.